Can everybody see my screen? Yeah, you guys are okay? Okay, good. Great. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with Zoom, but just in case, there are these very important buttons. You can mute and unmute. Anytime if you have a questions, you can also use the chat function in Zoom. If anytime if you have a question, please post your question on chat, and we'll do our best to address that. At the end of the session. Again, earlier we said that feel free to turn on your video if you feel comfortable. And if you are in some place, or you're walking or you're in a restaurant, you don't have to turn on your video. It's up to you. Reaction button, if you like certain comments, you wanted to give us your feedback, you can use the reaction button to raise hand or thumbs up. So this is where we're gonna be connecting today. It's via Zoom. Now, I wanted to welcome you to Climb Leadership webinar. For some of you, you are an alumni, so I welcome Will, Elvin, those in the committee that joining us. But those of you who's not familiar with Climb, Climb is a leadership program that I founded 3 years ago, and it's actually representing 5 different modules under this acronym. But it starts with leadership, self-awareness, then thinking about team engagement, team awareness, innovation to grow, monetizing your business, and digital branding in terms of putting the right message on social media. So we've been running this program since May of 2018. We have over 400 alumni now. We also have a community, and the community is formed by the alumni. And I don't know if I have Jason here. Jason said that she would join us. Jason is the president of the alumni community. He actually came to me a year ago and said that, hey, I really love the program and I wanted to continue to with what we've been taught through Climb and form a community. And of course, these are the picture that is pre-COVID, and since COVID-19, we're doing all of our get together, via Zoom. So the community actually has its own mission, vision, and values. And it's about coming back together, doing meaningful network, learning together, continue to focus on talents and strengths, and then creating purposeful events. So we've been doing community events since the beginning of the pandemic, or circuit breaker. So, and every 6 to 8 weeks, we invite really, speakers, important speakers to talk about a variety of topics. Many times involve leadership. And so we want to bring back everybody to think about, sharing, learning, creating value for each other. Be yourself, be authentic, thinking about self-improvement and focus on strength. So Jason, you wanted to say hello to everybody? If you're around, I can't see, let me see, let me open up my view. I don't know if you're still there or listening. You're probably listening in because he probably has a meeting, but welcome. Now, that brings me to the speaker of the day, Dr. Loretta Chen. I met Loretta actually in Singapore many years ago. I think she was visiting her family in Singapore. Loretta is from Singapore, but she's currently living in Hawaii, and she's a professor at the University of Hawaii. And she was visiting Singapore, and because she is such a great learner, she actually came to one of our classes. I don't know why she's doing that, while she's visiting and vacationing, but she's still wanting to learn. So I wanted to introduce Loretta first through her top 5. And many of you who've been to our classes, you will know your leadership top 5, but these are Loretta's leadership top 5. Her number 1 is positivity. I think those of you who know her knows that this is, really her great talent. Anytime you meet Loretta, she is smiley, she's optimistic, she always had that positive energy behind her. I love talking to Loretta because, if you don't feel well, you talk to Loretta, you feel better. And then Her second talent is command. She is someone that actually always speaks her mind. She has the courage to stand up for what she believes. And you will see a lot of the work that she have done. She pushes the boundary. She's really someone, what I admire Loretta is she's someone that is thinking about, how to empower women. How do we advocate in terms of authentic leadership? How do we think about education? She's an educator herself. And then, of course, as a developer, she's a great mentor, teacher. She's always thinking about how can I help other to grow, to do better. That is the heart in as a developer. Adaptability, demonstrate how she works. She's always very flexible. She's super creative. She is resourceful. And then, not surprised, her fifth talent is a learner. She is super curious. I think, with all of these combined together, it's not a surprise what she has accomplished, in the so many years, the work that she have done. She is an award-winning director. We will be seeing one of her short films today. She's also a TED Talk speaker. She is the executive creative director for many brands such as Louis Vuitton, Samsung, Nike, a professor teaching at the University of Hawaii. And, without further ado, I would like to bring Loretta in. And first, we're actually going to spend, about 15 minutes or so to watch this film that she has created. And I think this would give us some context in terms of our question and answers and her presentation later. All right, Loretta, welcome.
Thank you so much. I mean, I had no idea that you'd be sharing my talent card. I'm not embarrassed by it. In fact, I'm quite thrilled. It's just that, wow, I'd forgotten, but that is so powerful. So thank you so much for that. Without further ado, I'm just going to jump right in. Actually, you know what? Let's just do a 30-second quick little warm up. I think my students know this. So you can join me. For those of you who have a camera, please turn your camera on. We don't have a lot of time today because the film is 20 minutes and I want to leave some time for a little talk story. So for those of you who can, please don't feel obligated. Okay, so my students are sort of primed, I can tell. So very quick, I'm going to ask you a series of 4 questions. Very, very simple. So if it's yes, you're going to lean right into the camera and show every single pore and wrinkle. It's totally okay. And if it's a no, you're going to move out of the camera. Okay? So I'm just going to ask 4 questions in the essence of time because I need to get through with the film and the Q&A. So blow, wind, blow, okay? And if the answer is yes, you move to the camera. Blow, wind, blow. How many of you have had your lunch or dinner? If it's yes, move to the camera. If it's not, move out away from the camera. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. For those of you who haven't eaten, thank you for staying with me. I hope I whet your appetites. Second question, blow, wind, blow. Wind blows to people who are barefoot. I don't even know where my shoes are anymore. Oh, I love it. You guys are so honest. Gail, I don't know why you're always wearing shoes. Third question, wind blows to people who have been to Bhutan. Oh, good. So very good. I just can't fool Kun Kun. She's the only person. All right. I better know my stuff. The final question is, how many of you are ready to get the show started? We're gonna watch the film and start the Q&A. Yay! All right, thank you, everybody. Okay, so I'm mindful of time. We've got a lot of ground we want to cover, so I'm just gonna jump right in and start with the film. It's gonna be 20 minutes, so please feel free to eat as well. Okay, can you give me the thumbs up if you can see my screen? Yeah, thumbs up. Perfect. Okay. So I'm just going to skip that and we'll go right into the film. So this is where bring out your lunches and dinners and we're going to start the film and I'll see you on the other side in 20 minutes. It's just taking a while to load. It's a big file. So we are right here in the land of the Thunder Dragon in between China and India. It is the last.
Loretta, we lost a little bit of audio.
happiness, which is why we're going to start our search to the secret to happiness right here in the kingdom of Bhutan. How many of you here actually think you're happy? Can I just hear, raise your hand. How many of you here think you're happy? What makes me happy is because I'm content with whatever I have and I'm satisfied with whatever I have in my life.
Happiness is when you have everything, like when you got many friends.
My secret of happiness, I don't have a secret.
I see people, they are content with what they have. And then most of people I see, it's, they just wanted to help.
Bhutan's philosophy of gross national happiness, or GNH, has forced the world to take notice of this secluded and mysterious kingdom where how are you is more important than how much you make. Bhutan's geography and formidable mountains have kept prying colonizers at bay. We sit down with the executive trustee of the Ogen Choling Foundation, Aji Kunzang Choden, who is the first Bhutanese woman to write and publish in English and regarded as a living treasure trove of culture and history.
First person who named this place and documented it was a great Buddhist master called Longchen Ramjamba, and he's a master of the Dzogchen. Okay, so he came from Tibet, and at that time Bhutan was not a country; it was just the regions south of Tibet. Yeah. So he came into Bhutan, and he lived in Bhutan for 10 years. And within the 10 years, he established 8 centers, and they're all called lings.
The unification of Bhutan led to the emergence of hereditary monarchy in 1907 that still continues today. The well-loved monarchs are considered living gods and have been the fountainhead of the country's progress and modernization.
It was the third king who said, how can a small country like this have such a divided and such an unequal kind of a society? So he said that every person in Bhutan is an equal citizen and nobody is master and nobody is servant. So that sort of equalized the whole society. That was followed by another great big change, which was the land reforms, which said that if we are all equal citizens, we should all have equal access to the resources. The land ceiling was imposed, which meant that no family with one land holding document could own more than 25 acres.
The people in this country can have enough health care, have enough financial, have enough place to stay the house, just little home, And there's no people without little land. So at least we have that home for everyone, land for everyone, health care for everyone, and the education for everyone. So that way it makes the country automatically peace and happiness.
One of the reasons why I decided to do this film is because it is personal to me. 20 years ago, my partner committed suicide from depression, and I set out to find out the meaning of life and the secret to happiness. I felt I had a story to tell, and I wanted to share it because this is not just a story about me, but about the people I meet. I wanted to share a story on overcoming, on how you can get stronger, even though life can be difficult.
You were trying to find yourself, and then you discovered Bhutan, and somehow you were doing a training for DHI. Yes. And I happened to be there, and it was not a typical kind of training, right? It was we were expecting a corporate training, and then bam, you were there, so colorful, and you yourself were, I guess, colorful, but inside you were damaged good.
Just how do we rebuild after tragedy? Can we ever find happiness again? Can logic help us seek answers? And can the endless questioning create clarity? Maybe the best answer is to just stop trying to understand and focus on accepting and rebuilding. Maybe this is the secret to the Bhutanese ability to trudge on despite adversity. Or maybe being happy-go-lucky and accepting our being and becoming is key. Our guide from Druk Asia, Pema Wangda, seems to have all the answers to the birds and the bees.
My father is from Lauri, and my mother is from the lower block, actually, what we call Seti. So my father migrated to, he came to my mother's place, and then that's how they met, and then in between I became.
In between he became. Censored. In between he became. Yeah.
You know, Loretta, when did you become?
I became. Yeah. My father, my mother, and then I became. Yeah, I became. Yeah. I became.
Bhutan is easy to fall in love with, but hard to understand to the casual outsider. Peel away the surface happiness, and you see stories of hardship and poverty. But the Bhutanese choose kindness, compassion, gratitude. Just as an ex-editor from Singapore gave up her creature comforts to pursue her love interest in Bhutan.
I first came to Bhutan last year, 2017, in August for 1 week. Personally, I really like mountains, right? And the forest and all that. So it was very beautiful. And then I realized that the people were really very beautiful as well. I think they all come from a very good place, emotionally and from the heart as well. They embrace people from all walks of life and from different countries as well. So a lot of good vibes. There was a lot of magic in the air. It's such a spiritual place,
Sure.
It brought me back to how I really was when I was in uni. I studied in Melbourne, and when I was there, I told myself that I don't want to go back to Singapore and be part of the system,
Right.
be a robot, take the train, the MRT every day, and I didn't want to, but I ended up doing that. I ended up doing that for about 11 or 12 years. When you're so busy in your day-to-day life in Singapore, you lose track of everything else that's so beautiful. You lose track of human connection, human emotions and all that. I was very tired of working. I was tired of chasing the unnecessary material things in life. So then I realized that I needed a change in my life.
It seems peace, love, and happiness could be a choice after all.
So everyone has a different perspective of what happiness is. So for me, it's waking up and choosing to be happy. There have been times in my life where, I wake up and I choose to be a bit more cynical and negative. So I'm glad that's over. And it's always a balance and it's always a choice. And coming over from Singapore, I had to reverse engineer a lot of things.
Right.
I had to give up the so-called, what people think is happiness, like material wealth and all that. So you reverse that and you come back to what life really is, the basics.
Very anyhow, this kind of Singapore.
Yeah,
Come to
anyhow,
Bhutan and anyhow make me cry.
Yeah, don't like that.
These people. So very long time talk English, huh?
I know.
I really like quite fun, right? Long time I talk like that. I've never seen a scarecrow in the water. Is that meant to be a scarecrow?
It's not a scarecrow. So what happens is it's an effigy. So then it's done. It's a religious thing. So perhaps this man had bad things happen to him and a lot of bad energy. So then it's like they make an effigy of him and then to cleanse and then send all of the negative energies away. They tell you which direction to throw it at or how to put it, which direction should it face. So you give your own clothes, things that are precious to you. So this hat and the clothes belong to the person who's trying to get rid of all of that negative energy. Usually you just throw them in a direction facing somewhere, but they're not in the middle of water. This is the first time I'm seeing one in the middle of the water. Chulu is it. Chulu. It's called the Lu. Yeah, so then this is the Chulu.
Wasn't it Robert Frost who said, "Take the path less traveled"? Who knows what adventures may lie on roads ahead? The roads in Bhutan are a perfect metaphor for the crossroads the kingdom is facing. The unpaved roads were hard to navigate and made driving slower. But I could take in the beauty of the kingdom. With the new roads, cars go faster. But I found myself blazing over the landscape as the car powers on. What price does progress come at? Will Bhutan still remain happy with the onslaught of development?
This road is I was make.
What do you mean? This
Road.
You made this like in some Bhutan?
Yeah, close up.
With a
I will stay here. Dead.
You stay in the tent? When did you do this?
84.
84! I was even born then. Pippa was born that year. I was born already. I was 8 years old. So you made this road?
Yeah.
How long did you take?
Only 9 months. 9 months.
9 miles. Okay, 9 miles. Okay, 9 miles. Like my grandfather's road. I've got a life right here. Yeah. It's like you're going back. Why? Because this is Uncle Sanya's road. Yeah. You're like, Uncle Sanya's road. Uncle Sanya's doing crunches. Let's do it. Let's do the crunches.
This road is I'll make 1984. My name is Sangye Namge.
Every day, Uncle Sangi puts on a happy face and goes to work. He takes visitors to Berela, a local landmark and gateway to central Bhutan. At 3,423 meters above sea level, it is one of the most dangerous roads in the country, and so we shout Lagelo in celebration of our safe crossing. This is where Uncle Sange lost his son.
How do you define happiness? Nobody can define happiness for anybody. So it's personal, and it's moment by moment. You're happy one time, you're not happy, but the sustained happiness will come from the inner inner force or whatever that each person has. And I don't know if the government or the education department or the monasteries can ever change that.
It's actually in your heart.
That's right.
It's not about anything you can really define. Happiness is like feeling that you have, and that defines your life for me. So definitely happiness can be found here in Bhutan, and we are a happy family. So I think that makes it easier.
So happiness is not everyone buy from somewhere. It's not like that. We have born as a nature, precious human being with the happiness. Bhutan is a small, and then it is not a developed country, but we have the hidden secret happiness because of the saints which come in the Bhutan created so many spiritual here, and the practice non-attachment, and the practice non-violence, and the thinking about compassion and loving kindness. If you compare with the United States, Our Bhutan is like a salt, a little bit. It's when you cook the curry, you just need only this much salt for the big curry, right? So that's Bhutan is that much. But the taste of the salt is that this salt can make a big pan of the curry to very tasty. What we have, it's not only Bhutanese people have a happiness. Western people also have a happiness. In the United States, we already developed too much already. So no way. There's no way to over that one. So then it's not creating the happiness. It's creating the sadness. So now you cannot make it more than that what we have right now. So at least in the United States, what we have done, what we have in that country, if it is enough, and there's definitely happiness and peace.
Ironically, I'm happier now because I have much less. I took a 90% pay cut. To be here, and that actually didn't matter. That I felt that I could do a lot more with less. Yeah, with a lot less.
People don't think it's real. People always doubt us. When we first wanted to do this, a lot of people were saying, "Oh yeah, they must be here because they have some like high-paying job or married some really rich guy or right."
No such thing. No, not at all in Bhutan. And both of us believe, right? We survive on magic and good karma, and we have so far. It's also a very Buddhist philosophy as well. You just think of the present moment. Even for me in my apartment, sometimes I get water supply issues, right? So you're really in the moment because you're trying to figure out how you're going to survive for that day and how you're going to fix all these minor little issues, right, for that day itself. And you don't think about, how's my career going to progress? Am I going to earn 5 figures in 5 years? And you don't think of these things at all. That is also a secret to happiness. I think being in the moment and being very present and very mindful.
I'm right. It's a condom dispenser.
Oh my gosh.
I was joking.
OMG.
Okay. Select rows, press 1 to 6. Press 1, press enter. Okay, I want 5. Row 5. Oh, and then press 1. Then press enter. It's not working. No, it's coming. I can hear it like where it's coming.
Wow, there you go. You can get lucky. Someone's gonna get lucky tonight. Yeah.
I don't think we ever claimed that we were the happiest place. I think what happened is that we are striving for happiness, and every human being is striving for happiness. And the difference is because the fourth king articulated and said to the world that he is more concerned about the happiness of the people rather than the GDP. And I think it got into all sort of ways. And I don't think anyone can claim that we are the happiest nation. But it's true that because there was such a awareness of this created through the media hype, the international intellectuals, as well as the Bhutanese policymakers, I think it has become a policy that the happiness of the people is what we should, that's a priority.
Something happened to me at 36 when I arrived in Bhutan, and I saw the simplicity that you Bhutanese embrace. Your life is not easy. I think people tend to think that, it's a land of GNH, so everyone lives in this plush landscape, blue skies, clean air, so happy, free healthcare, free education, everyone is just happy. But the reality is your lives are hard. But I think your embrace of Buddhism and GNH allows you to always see gratitude. And every day you wake up saying thank you. Our driver who has seen the last loss of his son wakes up every day saying thank you because I know this is a lesson to me. And that is what I took away at 36. That the key to happiness for me is embracing your every flaw and failure and every obstacle in life, never allowing yourself to be a victim of circumstance. And I think most of all you Bhutanese that I've met, every single person that I've met along the way has been that way for me.
All right. So, in the essence of time, I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. I was just chatting with Dion over the movie, that because it's already 6:35 and I'm really mindful of time. I want to honor our time. So I decided that I'll just go ahead and jump right in and do the talk set. So she's asked me some great questions, which I quickly incorporated during the time that you're watching the movie. So she asked me why I made this film. And, essentially I thought that it'd be great to make this film because not many people actually know where Bhutan is, right? I mean, it's nestled between two huge countries, China and India, but very little is known of them. But more importantly, I think I really wanted, the long and short of it is, let me actually put on my video again so you can see how animated I am. The long and short of it is, it's my love story of my love song to Bhutan. And, I crowdfunded it, and some of the people who actually helped me, and like April, hi, thanks for your support. It's a crazy idea that this girl said, I want to do this movie, short film on Bhutan. And essentially, I think Dion covered that I was an international consultant for the country. And in those 8 years, it was transformative. In the next couple of slides, I really want to share with you why it was so transformative. Not only did I get a real clear understanding of how gross national happiness works, it's not just a touchy-feely, tree-hugging sort of way, but for those of you who are very corporate-minded, business-minded, I mean, it seeps into every pore of the society. And I was obviously, very much entrenched in the fabric of the society, and they invited me to their homes, and I went to some of the most isolated parts of Bhutan. This is actually in the eastern part of Bhutan called Nang Lam, that most people never even go. And I think parts of the film already covered why are the Bhutanese happy. There's going to be a pop quiz at the end and to see if you paid attention to the film. But I mean, the film shared that Bhutanese are traditionally called happy people, but as Aji shared, and she's a princess, by the way, she's so humble, you never know, that yes, it is a term coined by the fourth king. And it's typically explained by its 4 pillars, right? As Ashi said, right? Good governance, sustainable socio-economic development, cultural preservation, environmental conservation. Now, I just want to sort of, in the essence of time, remind you that we're in a pandemic. And a lot of things that have come about now, we're hearing more and more that we're getting more and more interested in corporate governance and ESG. This is coming up more and more in corporate circles. But if you recognize this, and that's why I really wanted to give this talk, that Bhutan has already had it. It's already had ESG. In fact, ESG now in corporate circles is now being known as EESG, employee, environment, social governance, right? But I get ahead. The point I'm trying to make is, if I wanted to attract more of you to this talk, I could have called this the art of corporate governance, or ESG, and more people will come. But the thing is, when I call it secret to happiness, people think, oh, it's fluff and I don't need to show up. But that really shows you the mentalities and the mindsets and what we as a society, especially in the first world, really predicate upon. So the key is, as the film shows, Bhutan is not La La Land, right? I distinctly tried to show you that it is not what you see in where you go to Six Sense Spa or the Aman. And granted, I've done all that too, but a large part of it isn't. So to put it in context, the GDP of Bhutan, total GDP of Bhutan is 2 billion. That's half of Springfield, Ohio. And to give it context, Singapore's GDP is 372 billion. Obviously, it's less this year. And Hawaii is 84 billion. So there are economic problems because it's a highly vulnerable landlocked country. And it has a very small domestic market. So yes, it has high unemployment and there is poverty, as you can see. And in this short little clip, you can see here, this is like my daily way to work. For those of you who grumble about traffic or in the 101 or the H1 or the ECP and AYE, I know now the pandemic has sort of eased traffic, but that was my commute, and landslides were common and people just sort of took it in. And in one of my earliest trips in 2012, I really saw firsthand how, and I used my sort of media platform and voice to help champion for the orphans in Bhutan. I think April supported as well. You're here, so thank you very much. Some of the photos I'm going to show you, please don't take it as this is exceptional. It's not snapshots of exceptional Bhutan. It is regular Bhutan. That's the point I'm trying to make. We tend to exoticize and exceptionalize, but it's just snapshots of regular Bhutan. So this is just a day in a monastery. Walls are broken. These are 17th century relics. There are huge gaping holes. Obviously I'm moved by the plight of the monks. And just to set the context for you, what you see here, this monastery is perched right at the top of the Himalayas. And the boy is standing in front of this flimsy aluminum. So if the aluminum sort of blows away, the boy falls over the Himalayan cliffs. And I'm not even exaggerating, right? And what really moved me with the Bhutanese was their living conditions. But more importantly, what I want to draw your attention to is that these are the living quarters of the workers in Bhutan, right? The pictures tell 1,000 words. It is a bathroom, yes, but it has now been converted into a kitchen, a bedroom, living quarters, dining quarters, community quarters. But never once did I get the sense that the Bhutanese felt sorry for themselves or desolate in the way that I see it very differently when I'm in Cambodia or Vietnam. And I know that these are very superfluous comparisons, but yet I think these are comparisons that are necessary to be made because there is still some sense of pride in equity in the Bhutanese. And so I was very moved to obviously raise funds for them. And, I use my platform and my celebrity family and friends to help in the cause. And we restored, parts of the monastery and even started an open air prisoner service where we actually had prisoners come and work. In open air, we like to think that was the world's first. We don't know, but it gave them a sense to be out and helping us build our monastery and also earning a little income. So we completed the renovations. I got a little award from the royal grandmother. But what is the point of sharing all this? The point of sharing all this is that this is not exceptional Bhutan. Like I said, this is everyday Bhutan. So why are they able to be happy? And again, like I said, there's going to be a pop quiz at the end of this, right? I mean, I've shared this already in the film, but I want to reiterate it again. And it's very important, especially when we're living in a pandemic, that there are various ways of defining happiness. And I think Pooh Bear defines it best. And there are three ways. Okay, I like to say that there are three ways. This is me being an academic. There are three ways, and one is pleasure. And I think Pooh Bear explains this best. So Pooh says, well, what I like best, and then he had to stop and think. Because although eating honey was a very good thing to do, there was a moment just before you began to eat it, which is better than when you were, but he didn't know what it was called. Does anyone know what that is? What the moment that comes before pleasure is? In the essence of time, I'm just going to jump in and give myself the answer. It's desire. A lot of what we think is happiness is predicated by desire and the assuaging of that desire. And this is also where I made a big shift from being a marketer, because that essentially means I market desire. I make you want more and more things, more Vuittons, more Samsungs, more Nikes, more Adidas, to really shifting to marketing, if you like, development, advocacy, the arts, women's rights. But I digress. So a lot of it is predicated on generating more and more desire. Right? And in a corporate capitalist, hyper-consumerist economy, we want you to be eating more, exercising more, shopping more. We turn sex into some sort of entertainment or sport, right? And everything is really about getting you to buy more. The other way that we create this sort of happiness for you is to tell you that you can have engagement. So go to that yoga class, go to that meditation retreat, but it's always still situational in a hyper consumer capitalist society. What the Bhutanese has, as you've seen from my short film, is that it's about contentment and it's about purpose. And so I know I'm making these very gross generalizations, but I have to make a point that the Western perspective sees happiness as a state to work towards consumption, more goods, more services predicated on the here and now, which is usually you can purchase it with currency. There is no coincidence that currency is comes from the root word current, here and now. Buy me now, here and now. But in Bhutan, happiness is a very different definition. It's about adaptability to good events. It's about adaptability to bad events. And that's crucial if you think about where we are now in the pandemic. And it's about adopting that long-term view. And this is where I pause to have you all think about what has really seeped into our Western vernacular now as we talk about sustainability. What is sustainability if not for the fact that it is about sustaining a long-term view? That well-being is not merely defined by economic achievement or GDP, but by spiritual, physical, social, economic health of its people and its environment. And this was started in 1974. And if you think about it, now it's getting currency in our circles, and the pandemic has exacerbated that. So the other question that Dion asked is how it's changed my perspective. I'm just speeding through a little bit in the essence of time. It's changed it fundamentally because I learned to have disciplined optimism, not to say I'm a Pollyanna, I'm very aware of all the ills of society and what's happening, but to be able to shift my perspectives. And their ability to reframe a problem is what leads to a solution. I mean, you heard Karen say that, right? That you're not going to think about your 6-figure salary when you're thinking about, am I going to get water tomorrow? And it's that ability to turn a crisis into an opportunity for introspection and to really think about how you can lead. And by that term as well, I really would like to caution all of us, and I know that I don't know which side of the political aisle you're at, but authentic leadership doesn't mean that you tweet every single thought that comes to your head. Political leaders that do that and call that authenticity, I feel, is a real assault on that word, because authenticity should be about having a responsible action and recognizing consequences. We don't have time for the placebo effect today, but we can always come back for another conversation. And now this is where I really want to end, because I think it's very relevant for the pandemic. How does happiness relate to sustainability? Again, I bring this up. It's about having a long-term view. For the longest time, we begin to recognize that the state that we're in, I used to do this talk and I would bring up all these seemingly grotesque pictures of starvation and war and strife. But today I need not do that because we are living in a pandemic. But it shouldn't take a pandemic for us to sit up and notice that if you think about it, what is the virus? The virus in and itself is a genetic code. It cannot survive on its own. But the reason why it is now a pandemic as it is, aside from the fact that we have a lack of global leadership, which is another conversation you can have me to come in for, but it really is because we are so separated from our ecosystems. We have deforested, we have given rise to the mutation of these viruses because these viruses need a host. But because we've eradicated all the natural environments for these viruses, it is now seeking a new host. And it goes from host to host to host. And now we are hosting it. And we are hosting it primarily because we have been a very bad host to nature. And I just want to put that thought in our head. And so we understand the causes of suffering. And a lot of people think that, oh, it's just Buddhist sort of hogwash. But it really isn't. And I go back to what happened in 1970. For those of you who are business students, in 1970, something very, I suppose, revolutionary happened in business, where Milton Friedman talked about what is the social responsibility of business. And he said that the one and only social responsibility of business is to use its resources and engage in activities designed to increase profits, as long as it stays within the rules of the game, without deception and fraud. But what he essentially did was he opened up the floodgates for corporates to have no corporate social responsibility, because the only responsibility it had to have was to its shareholders. I do not think it's a stretch of imagination that in 1974, the fourth king said, hang on a second, we can't always have GDP, we need GNH. So again, in the essence of time, I'm just going to move forward very quickly. But we have begun to see now that GNH is really not just about macro financing, but macro thinking, but also micro managing. And I'm using that positively. And if not for anything, I think I urge you all to now see the parallels between GNH and ESG, because what we're essentially doing is to shift between an ecosystem to an ecosystem. Back then, when my friend here, I'll use her name, Kun, was talking about understanding and love and tree hugging, people probably think that she was out of her mind. But it is very crucial to our survival, because the three existential threats, and we're seeing it now as a nuclear threat. It is a technological threat. I mean, our jobs will be taken by AI. And of course, climate change. And again, you can hire me to come and do another talk, but I'll skip the slide for now. But I think there is so much forward thinkingness on the part of the Bhutanese leaders to recognize that sustainability meant long-term view. And it's something that America is waking up to. I quote our good friend, Kun, and I know him very well, and he's the Emeritus Minister of Education, and he says, it's easy to mine the land and fish and seas and get rich, but we believe you cannot have a prosperous nation in the long run that does not conserve natural environment. People always ask, how can you have a nation of happy people? But this is missing the point. GNH is an aspiration and a set of guiding principles. I shall skip through this because this goes on to talk about how you see GNH in tourism, in forestry, in education. And I'm really happy, I suppose, to say in 50 years now since Friedman's wonderful theory on shareholder capitalism, we finally have the first green school in America. I guess we're making progress the way we finally have a Madam Vice President. So I guess we are making some sort of progress. But I think that this is important. I'm just going to take this slide, that the Bhutanese recognize that it's so important to preserve its environment. It's replacing fossil fuel, it's working on biodiversity, it is working on hydropower, generating clean energy. And I just needed to highlight today that this is a huge contrast to the Trump administration's late push to sell oil and gas drilling in the Arctic refuge. I mean, just put that in context. Again, regardless which side of the political aisle you sit. So finally, I just really wanted to draw some parallels to the world we live in now, and that increasingly we see the big fours, we see lots of corporations driving now to try to have stakeholder capitalism and have ESG in their corporate mandate. So I really do hope that for those of you who have a seat at leaderboards and who are able to make change, to really begin to see if we can actually start to create GNH, and maybe GNH is too, hocus pocus for you, to begin to embrace ESG philosophies, because that fundamentally is really similar to GNH, is really my theory and my point. No one has made that comment, but I have. So if you can quote me on that, and I stand corrected if I'm completely wrong. That I hope that we begin to recognize that if the basic purpose of development was changed from the pursuit of profit to the pursuit of well-being, the true level of happiness in this planet would certainly go up. Will GNH replace GDP? To be honest, I don't think so, but I certainly hope that tenets of GNH will certainly begin to complement the way we live. So with that, I'm just going to pause because I don't think we have enough time. I'll leave it as a cliffhanger if you want to know what this is, but I'm going to stop share and go back to Dion.
Thank you so much, Loretta. Wow, what a rich hour. We just, the only complaint we have is we want more time with you. I wanted to ask everybody, if you have a question, please post it on the chat, then we will answer your questions of Loretta. I think, while we're waiting for that, I just wanted to ask, this is on my mind is, so what's next, Loretta, and how can we help? I think when we started talking, you all about connecting, collaborating together, and then how can we make a difference together? How can we support your initiative?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to skip through all this. If you ask me what are the tips, then I give some tips. That's the kids getting very happy and excited. I on my own, I think I do a lot of outreach. I'm writing a new book called Mothers, so make sure for those of you in Singapore, please purchase a copy. It's by Singapore Press Holdings. But I really wanted to give the voice to invisible women, invisible mothers, LGBTQIA, teenage, foster, rape survivors. I think I see it as a privilege to be able to tell stories of people who aren't able to tell their stories. And as long as their stories are not heard, we are not taking care of them. We don't have policies to take care of a lot of these women who are not always sort of visually seen in the forefront. So that is sort of my wish, to sort of move the needle by changing the cultural imaginary, by allowing these difficult conversations, because I think it's important. And the other way is, you can log on to my website, it's right here. You can support various initiatives that I have. I started one called Future Skills. Jeremy is here listening in as well. So Future Skills aims to provide free education support to communities of need. And I'm really proud to say that Dion has volunteered her expertise as well. So basically it is about gathering like-minded people who are, just wanting to do their part now that we can't really travel. But if you are willing to offer some of your time, your expertise to train, I will be happy to be the go-between and arrange sessions for you to work with communities of need. So that's Future Skills. And if you want to find out more, drop me and go onto my website, drop me an email, and just feel free to connect. Yeah. But thanks for asking that, Dion. Oh, is Dion there? Did I lose connection with all of you? Oh, I can't. Well, I don't know if Dion is there, but these are the Bhutanese children. I think Dion froze for a while, but I see you guys bobbing about, so I figured that you probably heard what was happening.
Hi, Loretta. So yeah, I think Dion didn't have a very good connection, unfortunately, but we do have some questions here. We have a question from Lee Chao Tang. Pursuing happiness might come across as a little fluffy. How will we carry this message at a company?
That is such an excellent question, Mr. Tang or Mr. Lee. That is exactly why I brought up the comparison to ESG and CSR, because we realized that when we go in talking about, happiness and gross national happiness, many people don't take it seriously, especially when I started this project, close to 10 years ago. And people just think, these like privileged people drinking lattes, doing yoga, coming to tell me about happiness. And I think all it really takes is for the pandemic to make us realize that this is actually real. Like, it impacts us if we don't take care of our environment. Unfortunately, human beings are tribal beings. We can be very selfish. We are the world's most organized and highly intelligent primates, right? But we can be so selfish that we don't see it until it's in our face. And I think the pandemic has really made us sit up. So all these models of corporate CSR, ESG has always been there, but it has just been like swept under the carpet because people wanted to make more and more and more money. I mean, I wasn't joking when I said if I wanted to have more of you show up, I would tell Dion, turn this into a CSR ESG conference and how to make more by doing good. And I'll probably get more people. But so I think what can happen is to start introducing ESG frameworks into your companies. Because ESG is a very systematic way of measuring things that usually are not measured, right? Like employees' well-being, or how much good are you doing for society? And increasingly, I mean, you see all like the big investment houses. I mean, in fact, now I invest in ESG, right? Like for those of you who are investors, start there. You don't have to start big. Start there. Start looking at where your money is going. Is it going to finance coal? Right? Start there, because when I think when consumers start agitating and voting with their wallets, trust me, shareholders listen. Corporate boards will listen if they start noticing that you're not buying their products because they support coal, or you're not buying their products because they're supporting, something that is environmentally unfriendly. So I think there is that, voting with your wallet, having these conversations. I'm happy to go in and talk about this as well, having those conversations, because it really can start with you. And on a bigger scale, then getting your corporate government or your corporate boards to really look into ESG, because it's it's never too late to start. In fact, we're already really late, right? So I think that's a good place to start. I hope I answered your question. Yeah. I know I don't have you on video, so yes, I did. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah,
Oh, good.
thanks.
Thank you so much, Loretta. And I hope I am back. I had a bit of an internet issue, and I hope you can hear me now and see me. Any more questions before we leave? It's 1 o'clock, so we want to be respectful of your time because I know it's your lunchtime or your dinner time. So if there is any question, you can unmute and ask Loretta, or you can put it on the chat. Okay, so our session's been recorded, so you can retrieve the session on our website, and Gitra will send you that information, and you can forward it to anybody who would like to hear our message. And thank you, Michael. I wanted to thank you, Loretta, for your time and this wonderful message and your film. It was really enjoyable to see your work. And I hope to have you come back. We want more of you. We want to hear more about the work that you do. So thank